This podcast contains spoilers, so listen at your own risk or call back after you've watched the movie.
You know who you call. Leave a message. Maybe they'll call you back. Then again, maybe they won't.
We're having ourselves quite a little game of phone tag here.
Ring, ring, ring. I usually get this guy's answering machine.
I'll call you right back.
If you're there, please pick up the phone. I really want to talk to you.
I check my fucking messages every day when I come home from work. My answering machine, zero. I got a blinking light.
All I have to do is pick up this phone right here, inform the cinema, and your plan's kaput.
No, I ain't got no phone. I had to pull, because people calling all the time, and who needs the aggravation, right? Interruptions.
Hey man, I watched The Convert last night, or watched the second half of it. I'd already watched the first half the previous night. I thought it was okay. It was a pretty generic movie to me. Kind of didn't quite get the point of interest in the film. Funnily, it's the second Lee Tamahori film that I've seen in the past month. The first being Kiss the Girls. Kiss the Girls is very much like the type of stuff I know him from. Schlock, essentially. That seems to be his bread and butter for many years now, just making like medium to big budget schlocky Hollywood movies. I know he did come from, was it Once Were Warriors or something like that? I remember a Maori film coming out in the 90s, I want to say, that everyone was saying was amazing, maybe like a Maori City of God or something. And I still haven't caught up with it. Probably should now, seeing as I've watched two of his films in the past month. And that, yeah, it felt like there was a lot of buzz about him. And then like so many foreign indie filmmakers, he got, snatched up by the Hollywood machine and just became like a workman-like director, and has had a pretty successful career doing so. This, I guess, is like a bit of a return. I mean, there may have been several other returns, but this is the first time I've been aware of a return back to subject matter that's more personal to him, and more of a kind of prestige film. But for that, I didn't quite get much from the film. I didn't think there was anything particularly wrong with it. I just felt it was a little boring. I guess I've seen this film quite a lot of times. It's like the white man going native and, understanding the culture. I think Guy Pearce does a good job. And I think these types of stories can be more cheesy than this film is. I mean, I like that Guy Pearce is already a kind of changed man at the beginning of the movie. We don't need to see him as the kind of savage soldier that we learned that he was in the past, and then getting kidnapped by the Maori and then hating them, and then slowly, we've seen all that so many times that I think the film is quite smart in just making this film take place when he's already like a decent man, and we just get like him sort of mediating these two civilizations or these two peoples. Everyone was decent in it. I mean, there wasn't really any flawed acting. I liked the realism of the environments, the set design. I like the little Kiwi town that we see, which is, it's funny because I was going to say, like, it's nothing. It's just a couple of houses, a shop, a church. It's like, well, that's literally like the village I came from, and it's, the 21st century. But yeah, it was good the way they showed that, just like a barren landscape, but then just like a few huts plopped down, and the idea of getting contracted into some role in the village from, I don't know, England or wherever he's come from, and coming all the way there and doing your job. It was interesting because the film is made by a director who's from a Maori background. It was interesting that they were able to show the kind of internal politics between the different Maori tribes and didn't need to sugarcoat that, which they obviously would have had to do had it been a white director or, white writers. It was a bit more complex, a bit more interesting. There was like kind of good and bad people. So, well, to be reductive, good and bad people in every camp. But a lot of the time, this stuff of like fish out of water, figuring out a new culture, like the main actress who, goes to the dance, and, the young guy who starts sort of fancying this white girl. A lot of the time that stuff has generated really charming scenes or really interesting dynamic scenes, and it just felt like this film was a little bereft of that pizzazz. We're going through the motions a bit. We've got all the usual ingredients that we've seen a lot of times. It looks nice. I liked quite a few of the characters. I liked the sailor guy who's like trading. Obviously, like Guy Pearce, I liked the lady that he kind of ends up with. But I was never that engaged with the film. And yeah, like I said, it's a bit more interesting and a bit less cheesy than it could have been, but it's also a story that maybe I've just seen enough times now that I don't really need it anymore. We watched a film recently, I think it was Korean or Japanese, I think it was called The Book of Fish. And that film felt a little bit similar to this, where it's a historical drama, and it's about a kind of older culture and the passage of time, the modernizing of the world. Obviously, in this film, we see guns coming into the picture and old ways being potentially erased and stuff. And I think it's hard to have that stuff be particularly exciting. It's more just sort of an historical observation. Unless, I guess, you just, you have it purely as a backdrop, and then you have like more of a kind of thriller adventure type thing. But if you're going for more of the Osprey vibe, which this film is, then the only way that it can really work is if it's absolutely incredible filmmaking. And although Lee Tamahori has definitely exceeded my expectation of how kind of reserved and measured he can be, still don't think that he's, on the strength of the films that I've seen, I don't think he's an amazing director. So we're left with a little bit of a solid, decent 3-star movie, which maybe there's other people that would like it more than I would. I mean, I think it's not really my cup of tea, this type of story and then this type of study, but maybe a little bit more to your liking. What did you think of it?
Hey man, getting back to your voice notes now about The Convert. How do I feel about this movie? I think the setting is very good in terms of getting to see New Zealand from like a historical perspective in the time frame of the 1800s is pretty cool. Again, it's amazing, like with this and The Dead Don't Hurt, which I'll go back to about as well, that the performance of these that is elevated by a strong central performance, and Guy Ritchie does a very good job. I think the main problem with this movie is it, what's his name? Lee Tamahori? Is that his name? You mentioned that you don't Kiss the Girls. I don't think he didn't Kiss the Girls. I think he did Along Came a Spider, but that's the sequel. Unless like I'm misremembering what you said. I think he has a limited level of the directorial flair that undersells this movie a bit, and it's kind of stuck in the middle ground between, do we want to make this a Last Samurai, which is a movie I really loved, or do we want to make this a very serious stripped down look at something like this that's more gritty than entertainment. And I feel like the movie falls somewhere in between, maybe, and that's the problem. I agree with you that it is good to have the Guy Ritchie character change man before we get there. But in a way, I kind of often see myself confused by his motivations at times. He goes to this small town and he's already seems like just a very new minister because he doesn't give a fuck about the kind of look after your own mentality. And then when he gets involved with the various Maori tribes, I feel like I could very much buy that the character has a thing for the underdogs and the thing for the oppressed. We certainly feel that, but I don't really buy where the character ends up, that by the end of it he's basically taking a side in the Maori conflict, and he's now transitioned to basically picking a side and looking after. I can't remember if he was firing a rifle or not, maybe not, but he certainly helps them load a rifle. But I feel like that's where you need a Dances with the Wolves or a Last Samurai, more integration into the culture to buy that he takes up their cause, especially when he's going around to the other Maori tribe as well and trying to make peace with them. I think I liked the actors, everyone involved. I think they all did a very good job, like the Maori girl and the captain on the boat. I thought they fleshed out the world fairly well. Like you said, very good job of a little village in the middle of nowhere with the very things they had. Very much like a village growing up in Ireland. You're completely right about that. Thought the battle scenes suffered a bit from the director not really being at that level we need. In fact, it was very confusing in the final battle where it very much seemed like the people who hijacked the boat were going to kick ass, and then all of a sudden we didn't really see. You know how good battles are choreographed, where we see a main fight happening, then we see a few sub battles happening at the same time, and it's edited very well, so we know that this part has changed now, and this is the part that they've got past the outer perimeters, and now this is the part where they're really under the caution. This is the part where there's the turning point, and so we didn't really get that with the battle sequences in this. It was over before you knew it, so much so that it seemed very anticlimactic. Like you, think one advantage of having somebody from New Zealand, and I think he's Maori himself, or at least knows the culture, that the movie didn't fall victim to that noble savage trope where, you know, the town is fucked up and they don't like outsiders, and rightly so, but they depicted the tribes without the holy virtue that sometimes we get with these movies, where they are so noble and so great, whereas no, you're trying to stop a tribe that's so steeped in war culture to have peace. And I did like that central question, if it could be achieved. I thought that was done well. And ultimately, it's a movie that's hard to talk about, but I enjoyed it more while I was watching than I can find loads of things to talk about, if that makes sense. I enjoyed it fine. I was pretty entertained. I thought everything was decently done, well shot, and very competently handled. But when you come to talk about it, I can't really say any more than that, other than that while I was in it, I enjoyed it. Wasn't anything special, wasn't anything above or beyond decent. And just some good performances made it that little bit better than maybe it should have been. But again, I think imagine a Mel Gibson version of this story, or someone who really has a flair to take it to the next level. I think it would have been a bit better for it, but yeah, decent.
Or was it A Long Came the Spider that he directed, not Kiss the Girls? I have watched both of those films in the past month, so I definitely got my Lee Tamahori fix. Although A Long Came a Spider is probably quite a bit worse than Kiss the Girls. Neither of them are particularly good. Yeah, as you said, there's not much to talk about with it. I mean, it's not an interesting film. I'll say that for it. It's easy to watch because I suppose that's the nature of these workman-like directors. They certainly know how to make it work in terms of like your classic audience score, focus group type filmmaking. They get all the shots that they need on the day, comes in, on budget, on time, just a competent movie, competently put together. It's never going to put you in an awkward position as an audience member. At the same time, it's just a bit dull and boring, and sometimes you want a movie that is more of a failure but has a bigger swing somewhere in the mix. And there's really nothing interesting about this movie, but it is easy to watch and it is fairly well made. And I think therefore your mileage is going to come down to how much you like these kind of stories. And I think you particularly like these kind of stories. I mean, you've certainly recommended a lot of Aboriginal and perhaps Maori films to me over the years. I know that you like kind of stories about indigenous cultures and maybe the culture clash between the colonizers and all this kind of stuff. Fish Out of Water, Living Off the Land, this type of thing. I'm less into that type of storytelling. So for me, I guess, being that this film, as you said, doesn't have much directorial flair, it doesn't really have anything noteworthy about it, I'm then left a bit like, why did I bother watching this film? But didn't particularly dislike it. I agree that your man's motivation is a bit unclear. It's kind of like, why is he's so anti-establishment that why is he ever in that world in the first place? Like, for starters, the townspeople must have been really smacking their foreheads that they hired him in the first place, because he's just so not the company man, so to speak. Like, he just really from day one is in opposition, like quiet little passive opposition, but he's not going to get that job done. And by the end of the movie, he doesn't seem to be a minister. It's not like he's bringing Christianity to the Maori or anything. Doesn't really speak about his spirituality at all in the movie. We know that very recently he wasn't a minister, he was a soldier. By the end of the movie, he seems to be a lawyer or some sort of like ambassador or something. I mean, I guess it's not an official title he's taken, but he's the whole minister gig seems like a fleeting and not particularly deep part of his story. And I guess if you tried to describe him, like, what's the main character of The Convert? What would tell me about him? You'd be like, oh, he's a good man. He's a good person who does the right thing and tries to protect other people. Oh yeah, what else? What's he like? What's the personality? Oh, that's it. That's literally the only thing we get in 2 hours is just that. And thank God we got Guy Pearce delivering it, because I'm just imagining this in the hands of a mediocre actor. There would be really nothing there to latch on to. But yeah, anyway, maybe we should go back and watch. I know every time we watch a movie, it's like just generating more movies that we have to watch. But I think it's Once We're Warriors is the breakout movie of Lee Tamahori, which was supposed to be very good. Now, I'm somewhat skeptical, having seen other films by him, which didn't inspire me with much confidence. But so it might be one of these things where it's like, it was more that people hadn't seen a look at Maori culture by a competent filmmaker before, so it got a little overrated. But, you know, we got to give it the benefit of the doubt. There's certainly been a lot of people who've made a great movie as their debut, or either their debut or their breakout film, and then just gone on to make schlock steadily after that. Guy who made the Hungarian film Control, what is his name? Well, name escapes me now, but he's been a schlockmeister ever since. We recently watched Trans-Siberian, which is from the guy who directed that Christian Bale movie where he gets really thin. I'm great at my titles today, but he broke out with, you know, respected work, then became a schlockmeister. So, and you know what? I'd probably do the same. If I'd made fluked one decent movie, and then it's like, you can work steadily, have a good, comfortable life, amazing fun making movies all the time for the rest of your career, and make schlock that entertains people and people generally like it and have a good time with it. Or you can keep on killing yourself trying to make magnum opuses and, you know, almost certainly diminishing returns, funding drying up, and kind of career disappearing. I think I'd choose the former.
What, you mean after your masterpiece set around the 1916 Rising in rural Ireland, starring Cillian Murphy? Actually, isn't that movie already? That movie is called When the Shakes Barely. After you've done your acclaimed movie, you wouldn't keep on down that path. You'd fucking go straight to Meg 3 and Marvel, like Captain America 6. Is that what you're telling me? It's not ambitious, man. You're not gonna get very far in life with that. I just looked up Once We Were Warriors there. Did get very good reviews. I do like all the things I was going to say accuse me of liking. All the things that you just said that I do like in the movie, that's for sure. I'm not sure how many New Zealand movies I've seen. I've seen certainly quite a few movies about the native population of Australia that I enjoyed. I went down the rabbit hole before. Actually, I like Australian cinema in general. You saw that great one the other day. What was it called again? With the... Jesus, it's not Walkabout. When he gets stuck in that town. Can't remember the fucking name of it now. But yeah, one thing I will say that it's a minor thing, but I actually liked. I didn't realize that he was going to be the convert at the end, and very much you could say he's converted to something within the Maori culture because he's got the face tattoo. And then you see the community seems to have mixed a lot better by the time that the English come at the end of the movie, where it's a lot of interracial relationships. The town seems to have been mixed a lot better than earlier in the movie. And we get to see a fleeting version of that at the very end of the movie. I actually think that would be an interesting story. That's more what I'm into, the kind of townspeople rallying together from different backgrounds and different classes against the English. That'd be a pretty cool movie. But anyway, no point in talking about the movie we didn't get. Yeah, Schlockmeister. We should have a Schlockmeister marathon one night. But yeah, nothing really else to say about The Convert. It's debatable whether we go to Once We Were Warriors, but it did get a lot of good reviews. But like you said, could very much be the freshness of it all in 1994. Waking Freight was the Australian movie I was thinking about. But yeah.
Your mailbox is full. Please delete new or stored messages which you no longer need so that new messages may be received.